So COVID's continued prevalence into now year three, believe it or not, has dampened consumer sentiments and is limiting a return to, we'll say, normalcy for a lot of people, especially when we're looking at what they're willing to do outside of the house. People are forced to weigh a risk versus personal reward every time they leave the house. Is eating at this restaurant or going to this sporting event worth risking possible exposure to COVID? So with that risk versus reward in mind, we started to really dig into where people are and where they're not and where they haven't returned to just yet. We saw that people have returned to the roads, but not yet public transportation. We're seeing that many people remain uncomfortable attending venues and in-person entertainment, and that's seen through low sporting, movie theater, and gym attendance. Although we do expect that consumer comfortability and attendance varies by city, state, region, even by age, and that with those changing CDC guidelines, they changed recently and they seem like a moving target, that we do expect comfortability and attendance to change over the next 6 months. And then programmatic out of home has emerged as an effective way to reach those audiences who have returned to in-person events and experiences. And those people tend to be younger and traditionally a little harder to reach with paid media. So where are people in a post-lockdown world? People are back on the roads. After 2020 lows, and that's represented as the orange line on this graph, road travel has rebounded in 2021 and it's surpassed 2019 highs. Although not on this graph, we did take a look at January and February of this year, and the average miles traveled for the first 2 months of 2022 have exceeded 2021. The same can't quite be said for transit. Total US public transportation ridership did see an increase in 2021. Third quarter totaled at 1.3 billion passenger trips, and that's a 24% quarter over quarter increase. However, public transportation ridership is not yet close to those levels seen in 2019, and many former commuters continue to work from home. When we broke out the rail trips from bus trips, we can see that both experienced those sharp declines in March 2020, but that bus trips didn't fall quite as far and they rebounded a bit more quickly than rail trips. Starting in June, we can really see those margins begin to narrow. We're closely monitoring transit ridership in 2022 as many companies, Harmland Media included, are returning to office at least occasionally, and we expect to see transit ridership increase in the upcoming months. When we looked at where people are and where they aren't, where they're comfortable going and where they're not yet comfortable going, it's not black and white. In fact, many consumers are fairly divided. Consumers are slightly more comfortable attending those outdoor venues and sports stadiums, which follows what we've been told as a science as outdoor has been fairly safe. But those indoor venues, those restaurants, bars, rec spaces, theaters, indoor arenas, there's still a large population, 45% plus, that just are not comfortable attending those places just yet. Again, this is something that we're watching, and given those changing guidelines, we expect to see comfortability increase in our indoor venues. Comfortability in attending sports events has increased across all generations, notably millennials, which is the youngest audience sampled here, they're most likely to attend. And while we're seeing that comfortability increase over the last 18 months, for most professional sports, attendance has not yet reached those pre-pandemic levels. So people are saying they're more comfortable, but they're not yet purchasing that ticket. We looked at several of our major sporting leagues, and the NFL 2021 attendance rose 1% from pre-pandemic levels, but this was likely driven by the league adding an additional game. Major League Baseball's 2021 attendance slumped to a 37-year low, and the league and the players union recently struck a new collective bargaining agreement ending their 99-day lockout, but that lockout and the delayed start to the season is not going to do baseball any favors with fans in attendance. And then when it comes to the leagues that play indoors, the NBA and the NHL, their attendance fell 5 to 6% last year, and that's compared to the last full pre-pandemic regular season. So those are just our major sporting leagues, but it was a pretty similar story across all of sports. So moving to another form of entertainment, we did see the return of the blockbuster movie in 2021 with the release of Spider-Man. But overall movie theater attendance remains down 61% from pre-COVID 2019. Our frequent moviegoers, and those are defined as people who go to the movies one or more times per month, they've returned to the theaters, but it's those casual attendees who have not. It's become much easier to watch premium content at home on the couch, my preferred way to watch a movie. And even though the industry indicates that they want to move away from that hybrid model of releasing a movie in theater at the same time that they release it at home, 8% of former moviegoers say that they won't be returning to the theater, even if that means there's a delay in when they can view that premium content. There has been a return to in-person dining, and again, this probably varies based on local ordinances and mandates, although we've seen most of those remaining mandates, at least on the East Coast, start to be lifted at the state and city level, so we expect this to continue to increase. And while you may be able to reach people at restaurants and bars, consumers remain a little gym shy. As of September 2021, national gym attendance was at about 80% of our pre-COVID levels. So as those COVID cases continue to fall and communities peel back their mask mandates, people regain comfortability and the CDC opens up those guidelines, we're going to start seeing people venturing out and about more. And that means there are going to be more eyes on out-of-home screens, from highways, elevators, malls, airports, subways, taxis, arenas, even street corners. Programmatic out-of-home is going to offer us that massive reach and a high impact experience that can be woven into consumers' daily journeys when they travel between home, work, shopping, and entertainment. And we're seeing programmatic out-of-home spend increasing. It's projected to reach over 400 million this year and is going to allow us to reach those key demos who are most comfortable in this post-COVID world. So as we wrap up the out and about in a post-COVID lockdown world, we want to leave you with 3 key takeaways. Roadside bulletins and posters are going to reach our travelers who've returned to the roads. It'll be really important to understand how travel patterns have changed since the pandemic started and how they evolve as people return to in-person work. Second, COVID continues to impact event and experience attendance. Consumer comfortability attending venues and events varies as the pandemic evolves. Using multi-touch media campaigns will ensure that we're meeting consumers where they're most comfortable, whether that's at home or out and about or a combination of both. And then finally, programmatic out of home reaches an audience that still values experience. They tend to be younger, millennial, Gen Z audiences, and they value experience, and they tend to be the most comfortable in a post-COVID world.